thought they'd be flying cars by 2000. They were only 45 years old. They thought they'd be flying cars by 2000. They were only 45 years old. They were only 45 years old.
Open the door. Sorry. Request refused.
Could be everyone's a hostage now. Could be everyone's a hostage now.
Let's all have some fun together.
Humanity does not have a master plan of its development. It seeks stability. It lives in the present and does not plan. It preserves the status quo and tries to escape development. It does not tend to map future centuries and take responsibility for evolution. It does not tend to map future centuries and take responsibility for evolution. In consumer society's culture, there is no evolutionary vocabulary and rhetoric. 2015 to 2020, the Avatar is created. A robotic human copy controlled by thought via brain-computer interface. It becomes as popular as a car. In Russia and in the world appear, in testing mode, several breakthrough projects. Android robots to replace people in manufacturing tasks. Android robot servants for every home. Thought-controlled avatars to provide telepresence in any place of the world and abolish the need for business trips. Flying cars. Thought-driven mobile communications built into the body or sprayed onto the skin. 2020 to 2025. An autonomous system providing life support for the brain. And allowing it interaction with the environment is created. The brain is transplanted into an avatar B. With Avatar B, man receives new, expanded life. 2025. The new generation of avatars provides complete transmission of sensations from all 5 sensory robot organs to the operator. 2030 to 2035. Rebrain. The colossal project of brain reverse engineering is implemented. World science comes very close to understanding the principles of consciousness. 2035. The first successful attempt to transfer one's personality to an alternative carrier. The epoch of cybernetic immortality begins. 2040 to 2050. Bodies made of nanorobots that can take any shape arise alongside hologram bodies. 2045 to 2050. Drastic changes in social structure and in scientific and technological development. All the prerequisites for space expansion are established. For the man of the future, war and violence are unacceptable. The main priority of his development is spiritual self-improvement. A new era dawns. The era of neo-humanity.
Elizabeth, tell us about your experiment. What is the core of the technology and what is its uniqueness?
What our company is doing differently, how we're trying to tackle disease, is by tackling biological aging. So biological aging is at the root cause of the diseases that we die of in old age. So anything from heart disease to cancer to kidney failure, dementia, Alzheimer's. This is all our cells getting old, behaving old, not cleaning up the damage anymore. So we've targeted 2 gene therapies that will actually help cells behave young. And it does work. It works in cell culture. It works in animals. One of the gene therapies we're working with is actually already in humans. In clinical studies with a different group. So we're very excited about bringing these therapies because it actually, for the first time, will give us the advantage of working at the problem that's happening at the core level of the cell that's causing the diseases that are killing us, and maybe we'll be able to eradicate several diseases at one time.
That's amazing.
Completely changing the paradigm of how we die. Completely changing the paradigm of how we die, and therefore how we live. So we want to bring the world a predictable product. We can't do that in 5 years unless we start today. So that's what we're out doing. We're marching on the world and asking the whole world to take down their borders, to take down the barricades, and work together to solving this very big problem. Very big problem.
Do you think that people are ready to accept the rejuvenation of this kind?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we see that in the numbers. If you tell someone, if you challenge them with what would it be like to live young when you're 100? Young when you're 100. You sort of challenge their sensibilities. But if you look at where people spend their money, 80% of what people will spend on medicine will be in the last 2 years of life, trying to stay alive 1 extra month. We believe that if we can bring these technologies and people see them working and the effects, that people will accept them quite readily. People will accept them quite readily. As long as they know that they have access to them too. People are afraid that just the rich will have access to therapeutics like this. I mean, our company is being very transparent. We're here to ensure that the whole world gets them. We're here to ensure that the whole world gets them. That the whole world gets them.
What and how do you feel after the treatment? Are there any obvious symptoms of rejuvenation?
Well, I feel fantastic. Now, of the telomerase induction, I took a low dose, so we did see lengthening in my white blood cells. Lengthening in my white blood cells. I feel fantastic, and that feels great. These are natural genes. These are natural genes. These are genes that you have in your body anyway. It's just upregulating them, so we're not seeing any ill side effects. And I'm enjoying being able to do the things that I used to do, but without the working out to trying to get there.
Are there any future researches that take place in this direction?
Well, right now, that's what we're doing. We're looking for countries that will offer some regulatory status to us so that we can prove safety and efficacy in a way that the world will appreciate. We're looking for that investment infusion in order to get these clinical trials done. So even though we're a technology company and not a research company, we still have to go in the human model and prove it the way that we all expect. I want to see the data. I want to see what happens when somebody takes the therapies I did, but not just one person, 100 people. Then we will have a clearer vision of the future for everyone. Clearer vision of the future for everyone. So we have to do this really important work, and we have to run those clinical trials in order to do it. But these trials will have to be done much like every other disease. We'll separate the therapies. We'll have a protocol. There'll be a specific age and a specific disease that we're trying them against. Otherwise, we won't have clean data. So, you know, maybe some of those people are going to...
Clean data means that you're unable to make experiments on healthy people? Or?
Right. We would not be making them on healthy people. We would not be making them on healthy people. We would pick a certain age group with the same disease, with the similar biomarkers in that disease to see how we can affect it. So being patient zero is fantastic, but it doesn't give a lot of data to the world. And because of the way we had to do the therapy, we did it more like a case study than a clinical trial. Now we have to go out and prove in human bodies, in many human bodies, how it works and what the outcome for these many different people.
What is the life expectancy through 10, 30, 50 years in your opinion?
Well, I would love to be the perfect salesperson, and I would love to tell you that we could double lifespan, but we don't know. So we don't know, and probably the true fix, making the perfectly healthy body, will be more than one gene therapy. It'll be more than one cellular technology. It may be a mix of stem cells, monoclonal antibodies, and gene therapies. It may be a mix of stem cells, monoclonal antibodies, and gene therapies. So right now, we have to wait for the data. But if we're seeing healthier people, if we can create a homeostasis in bodies, bodies that are functioning like youthful bodies, they're clearing junk, they're metabolizing well, the organs look good, the skin looks good, the heart looks good, the brain looks good, everything looks good. I mean, if you're healthy, you know, what do you die of? What do you die of? It is very likely if we can put you into that homeostasis, we could keep you there for a long time. We could keep you there for a long time. those would be great biomarkers to look at. And then we can start projecting how long will this person live. I think that by changing the way you die changes the way you live. So naturally, humans die before the age of 35 of infectious disease. That's how we died before antibiotics and immunizations. That's how we died before antibiotics and immunizations. So antibiotics and immunizations created a world where now we feed more people than we did before. We have animal rights. We have many ideas. We're working on the environment. It's a hot topic these days, the environment. It's because we have time to actually think about these things. We can postulate and predict a future and try to create a better future. Imagine if it seemed like we might have more time.
And there's a good question. What are you dreaming about?
I really would like to see a future where our company had a big success, where we were seeing the effects on human lives, where we looked back at textbooks to have to see what it used to look like to get old, to have to see what it used to look like to get old, where we could see clearly the decay and getting old, and be glad that we came forward to solve the problem when we did. I'd like to be able to look and see, you know, all of the governments in the world that got behind these new technologies and help to expedite them. All of the governments in the world that got behind these new technologies and help to expedite them. But, you know, as lifespans increase all the way around the world, it doesn't matter what the religion is, doesn't matter if you'll ever meet them or not. As lifespan increases, birth rates go down everywhere. As lifespan increases, birth rates go down everywhere. The projections for the human population actually after a couple hundred years from now start to curve down. If you look at Japan, they're at negative growth. They're the oldest, longest living people on Earth. Mm-hmm. So we have only reason to believe that we have natural balances that we put in place for ourselves, and that we will continue to have those, and that children will continue to come, but maybe each child will be taken care of in a much better way than they are now.
Do you have ambitions to have this technology be implanted in the governmental technologies?
Absolutely. If people can feel trusting of the government to give them these sort of gene therapies like immunization, if people can feel trusting of the government to give them these sort of gene therapies like immunizations, and the product is clean and the output is exactly what we're looking for, I really hope that governments will get involved and they will create free medicine for people in the future, because they save so much money on these diseases if they create a healthy population. So absolutely, but that has to do with trust, and so you have to create the trust there. In the U.S. now, less and less people want to take immunizations. People have become skeptical. People have become skeptical of taking immunizations, even though historically we can see the benefits of immunizations to the human race. It bumped up our lifespan by, over 20 years. That's huge. There's no other pharmaceutical that has come since then that has done that. We have to create a world of trust and values, and we have to value health. So there are a lot of problems that go on with increased lifespans, but our problem to solve as a company, BioViva's problem, is healthy people. So how do we create healthy people? How do we eradicate disease? Disease is the problem, and that's what we're going after.
Do you think that ongoing researches might or will lead humanity to immortality?
Okay, there's two ways to look at that. I don't think that there is immortality in the way that most people are thinking, because if you got hit by a bus, you would die, okay? And like the way immortality has been sold to us, like you can't die. I think the word that you're probably looking for is amortality, that diseases don't kill us. I think that it's possible that we could create a long-lived, very youthful human. Infectious disease will always be a problem because the infectious disease mutates rather quickly. Maybe this is possible. As far as science goes and looking at cells, we've already created what's considered immortal cell lines. So on a scientific level, we've achieved this, meaning cells that continue to replicate healthy cells longer than a human cell should, and that's with human telomerase, one of the gene therapies. As far as again, the regular definition of like vampires, I don't think so.
Is the humanity ready to accept immortality?
I think that that's the hard pill to swallow. I think that humanity is ready to accept a life without disease. And I think that's the only step we need to make, because again, the other word, immortality, is kind of unachievable. Something eventually will kill you. So, you know, if we're careful in what we say, if we're careful in what we say, we'll get to the closest thing to that reflection sooner.
And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it.
And Yahushua said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.